Investors, welcome back to Green Money Momentum, where we talk about market movements, making money, and money momentum. I'm your host, Trevor, and we are here for Tuesday's daily talk of stock. And ignore the gloves. My hands are just a bit cold. I know I'm out here in Arizona, and it's only like 60 degrees outside in some places in the world. I know some of you are experiencing a lot colder of temperatures, but this is a lot for an Arizonian. The markets today were pretty flat overall. We did actually have some advancements, as we did have 55% in the gaining category, but as we could see, many players barely had any movement. Nvidia didn't move by 1%. The same to be said with Microsoft, Oracle, Palantir, Apple, Amazon, and Tesla, just moving up by a little over 8%. But a lot of the markets were flat today, including the major indexes. So when we look at both the SPY and the triple Qs, they have had some pretty flat movements in the short term. We have basically been trading sideways since Friday. And as we could see with this sideways movement, we are right under the all-time highs in the SPY and both in the triple Qs. Both of these indexes are pretty correlated, but we have been having this choppy movements, and that is because, again, the markets are waiting to see what happens tomorrow at the big FOMC meeting, and then what Jerome Powell says in his after remarks. At this meeting, the Federal Reserve is projected to cut. There is an 87% probability that they do that. The numbers actually did drop a little bit today on this probability tool, and that is because the Fed has a dual mandate to maximize employment and keep stable prices. With that being said, we're going to talk about some assets going into tomorrow. So tomorrow going to be a very volatile day. Have your eyes peeled for right around 2 p.m. Eastern time, because that is when we get the news from the FOMC meeting. And then directly after that, we will have Jerome Powell speaking. So some volatility ahead. With that being said, these are some of the assets that I am currently watching. So first, I'm looking at RobinHood. I love where we are currently sitting in terms of technical analysis. I absolutely love this play. I have talked about it so many times on this channel. If you want a deeper analysis on RobinHood, go check out my video yesterday, because I talk about some of the deeper fundamentals with this company. But this company right here, a true blue chip company with great volatility, and they have a beta 2.1, meaning that this runs at about double the speed of the major indexes. So a lot of volatility with this play right here, and it is a blue chip company. Again, I absolutely love RobinHood. They have accelerating revenue, and this company is always innovating. When we look at the technical analysis throughout this entire year since Liberation Day, we have been in this rising level of support and resistance. And then in the short term, of course, with the rest of the markets, we saw a sell-off. We fell under the 50-day moving average, but recently we have bucked out of that downtrend. Now, what we have to ask ourselves going in to tomorrow, because tomorrow is going to be very important, is can RobinHood reach this level right here, right around 144, and can it potentially break through this level? Because if it doesn't break through this level and we do see a bit of a sell-off, this could be a scenario where we see some higher lows being built. But I do believe that RobinHood will break through this level. I do believe that we will get positive news from the FOMC and Jerome Powell directly after. And I do believe that the markets are going to have a nice run from this event and going forward through the rest of 2025 and then going into 2026. When we do look at the other indicators of the relative strength index, if we're talking about lower highs being built, we did recently break out of the lower highs being built on the relative strength index. So as we can see here, we have our highest high. We came down. The stock tried to retest, got rejected, came down once again. But most recently, we have broken out of the downtrend on the RSI. And then the same to be said with the MACD, because we were making some higher lows there, but we did get the bullish cross, and RobinHood is pushing up on all three of these indicators years. And I am very bullish on this stock again because a true blue chip company recently added to the S&P 500. And with all the fear, uncertainty, and doubt within the markets right now, all the liquidations, all the margin calls, all the buying, selling, options expiring worthless, everything that has gone on, this is tremendous for Robinhood because they are making all this money through the order flow. So Robinhood, definitely one of my favorite stocks, a lot of volatility on a company that has a lot of great fundamentals. The next play that I am currently looking at, BigBearAI. I've talked a ton about Big Bear as well, one of the favorites on this channel. And as I've talked about before, there's some accumulation zones where I have currently picked up my Big Bear position, right? So for some options contracts and leaps going into the future, and in the short term, I have picked up at all these different levels here when it tapped off the 200-day MA. I currently like the movements that we are seeing in Big Bear. We are currently in this level of consolidation, and recently we have seen some bullish movements within the Big Bear. We did tap off this level right off the 200-day moving average. We are at the support in this level of consolidation. We are moving up on the relative strength index. And recently, we also did see a bullish cross on the MACD. And what I love about BigBearAI, this company right here is a small market cap stock. So when we look at their market value, they are currently at 2.86 billion with 436 million shares outstanding. So there is the possibility that they do dilute here in the near future, especially for their big Ask Sage acquisition, but really not too much of a concern because they will distribute this evenly over the years. And right now, a flow of just 436 million, not really too much, especially when we consider how much hype and momentum is behind the Big Bear. And something really important with the Big Bear also, they have a massive short interest with the flow being shorted at about 25% of the float. So there are a lot of shorts against the Big Bear. There are also a lot of bulls for the Big Bear. And then also every day when it comes to the most actively traded stocks, Big Bear is always one of the top plays. So if you look at how much Big Bear is being traded in terms of volume, you could see here 100 million shares traded just today alone, which is absolutely wild when you consider that there are only 468 million shares out there. Because when you look at, for example, Nvidia or Warner Bros here, right, they also have a high volume of shares being sold. But like when we look at Nvidia, for an example, and see how many shares of Nvidia there are out there, we have a total, look at this right here, 24.3 billion shares outstanding. So when you compare that to Big Bear, the small market cap, and how few of shares there actually are, this does provide amazing potential for a squeeze scenario, especially with the high short interest, which is against the Big Bear. And in the short term, we have also seen a lot of big institutions pick up onto the Big Bear. And in the short term also, you know, I know some Big Bear investors are frustrated because we have seen some sideways movement. I mean, we have basically been stuck in this sideways trend when we really look at it since June and still building forward. And during this time, Big Bear has greatly built their company. So again, I currently like where we are sitting at. This is a very volatile stock that could have some massive run-ups, and I have accumulated at these lower zones. So I am holding on to my Big Bear right now, and I do believe that tomorrow could be pretty big for the entire market. And I do believe that Big Bear could see a nice run up with the rest of the market. And Big Bear has also, again, had some massive movements throughout this entire year. So when we look at the actual year performance for the Big Bear, currently for the year, we are up. I'm just looking here on my phone. We are up for the last year. So going back to year to date, we are up year to date about 46%. So it still has been a bullish year within the Big Bear. And this is while the Big Bear has paid down a ton of debt. We have already seen some dilution within this play, and Big Bear overall has a lot of growth going forward. And when we look at the technology that Big Bear provides, they have a lot of true intrinsic value. And this is why I invest into this company, because they are picking up a lot of deals. And some like to compare Big Bear to Palantir. I'm not necessarily saying that Big Bear is Palantir. You know, Big Bear has a long way to go. Palantir has tremendous quarterlies. They are making so much money, right? So Big Bear still has some pretty low quarterlies, just at about 40 million per quarterly, right? And this year, the quarterlies have been disappointing, but during this time, they have greatly built in terms of their customer acquisition. And again, they are making that big Ask Sage deal here in Q4. So I'm very bullish on BigBearAI. I have some options contracts and some leaps for Big Bear that go all the way to 2027. A stock price of just $6.70 with all the real value behind this company. I really love what I am seeing within the Big Bear. And anytime there is a retraction in the Big Bear, if we do drop under this level of consolidation, get back to the 200-day MA, right? So let's say if things are disappointing tomorrow, well, I will just pick up more BigBearAI because I know what I am holding with this company, and there is a lot of real value here. The last play that we're going to talk about here, BitMine Immersion Technology. Recently, we did see a bounce off the 200-day MA, which also correlated with the relative strength index, and then we did see a bullish cross on the MACD, and today was a pretty big day for crypto, as we did see all cryptocurrencies have a bounce, and Ethereum had a nice 6% jump today. So BMNR has a lot of real value, and we have had a pretty volatile bounce just off of this bottom. So when we look at how much value has been gained since this level, at the lowest point, BitMine Immersion got all the way down to $25, currently back to $39. And before the recent retraction we saw in the markets, it was trading in a channel which was in the $40 to $60 range. And so everything has been shot recently, and this has provided a ton of buying opportunities and discounts. And I do believe that this company right here was at a pretty good discount. So I've been picking up my BMNR, and I am still very bullish on BMNR, and I may even add more to this position as we return to this level of consolidation. But I am very excited for the markets. Again, tomorrow is going to be a very volatile day. So remember to have your eyes peeled for right around 2 p.m. Eastern time and right after for the remarks from Jerome Powell. Always a volatile and unpredictable time. But I would be curious to hear what everyone else thinks in the comment section below. So please drop a comment. Please let me know if you are bullish or bearish on any of these assets or anything else currently within the markets. Also, please leave a like and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. I thank you all so much as always for being here, and I will see you in tomorrow's daily talk of stock.